shouted another. "Duck your nuts! Low bridge! Down with your noodles!" Then a shower of stones, mud, apples, and tin cans flew from all sides at the bus. The players fell on the floor and piled upon one another, in every way trying to hide their faces. Chase fell with them, and squeezed down as well as he could to avoid the missiles. It was a veritable running of the gauntlet, and lasted till the plunging bus had passed the lines and distanced the pursuers. Then came the strenuous efforts imperative to untangle a dozen or more youths of supple bodies. Only the fortunate players who had been quick enough to throw themselves to the floor first had escaped bruises or splotched uniforms, and they were hardly better off because of the smashing they had received. "Gee, I got a lump on my head all right," said Chase. "That was sweet as ridin' to slow music. Wait till we strike Kenton." That evening after supper, while Chase was sitting in front of the hotel, Cas whispered to him to look out for tricks. He spent the evening in and around the lobby and kept his eyes open. Nothing happened, and at 10 o'clock he went upstairs to find his room. He unlocked the door and opened it, to be deluged with a flood of water from overhead. Next a bucket fell on him and almost knocked him down. Shivering and thoroughly drenched, he fumbled on the bureau, finally found matches and struck a light. A bucket, 2 sticks, and a string lay on the floor in a great pool of water. "One of the tricks," muttered Chase, with chattering teeth. He locked his door, closed and fastened his transom, plugged the keyhole, and then felt reasonably safe. For a long time there were mysterious goings on in that part of the hotel. Soft steps and subdued voices, snickerings, with occasionally a loud, angry noise, attested to the activity of those who were playing the tricks. Chase finally got to sleep and had a good night's rest. In the morning, as he came out from breakfast, he found most of his team assembled as usual in the lobby. "Hev a good night, Chase?" asked several. "Fine. Little wet, though, early in the evening," replied Chase, joining in the general laugh. "Watch for Brill. Don't miss it," said somebody. Brill was one of the pitchers, a good player, quiet in his demeanor, and a rather unknown quantity. He was a slow, easy going Virginian. Presently he appeared on the stairs, came down, and with pale face and deliberate steps he approached the players. "Mawnin', boys," he said in his Southern drawl. "I shore hev somethin' to say to you all. I don't mind the ice water, an' I don't mind the piller somebody hit me with, but I'll tell you all right now, the feller that put thet there leapfrog in my bed is goin' to git licked." Brill never found out who put the leapfrog in his bed. Wild horses could not have dragged the secret from his comrades. That evening, when the players were sitting in front of the hotel with their chairs tipped back, a slight, shabbily dressed woman with a dark shawl over her head approached and timidly asked for Mr. Castorious. "Here I am, ma'am. What can I do for you?" replied the pitcher, rising. "My husband sent me, sir. Jim Ayers he is, sir, and he used to work in Findlay where he knew you," she said in a low voice. "He wants to know if you'll help him, lend him a little money. We're in bad need, sir, and I've a baby. Jim, he's been out of work, only got a job last week, and the second day he was run over by a team." "I read about it in the papers," interrupted Cas. "Yes, I remember Jim." "He said you'd remember him," she went on eagerly. "Jim, he had friends in Ohio. He oughtn't never to have left there. He hasn't done well here. Jim's the best fellow. He's been good to me, and never drinks except when he's down on his luck." Cas gently turned her toward the light. She was only a girl, pale, worn, sad. "Sure, I remember Jim," said Cas hurriedly. "Fine fellow, Jim was, when he left off drinking. I'll lend Jim some money, Mrs. Ayers, if you'll promise to spend it on yourself and baby." The young woman hesitated, then with a wan, grateful smile murmured, "Thank you, sir, I will." "Now you just go round the corner and wait." Castorious led her a few steps toward the corner. When she had gotten out of sight he took a roll of bills from his pocket, and detaching one put it in his hat. "Dig up," he said, thrusting his hat under Mac's snub nose. "Cas, you're easy. You remember Ayers, don't you?" replied Mac. "I do. He was strictly N.G., a booze fighter, an all around scamp. I wouldn't give him the price of a drink. But that girl, his wife, did you see her face?" "I did," growled Mac, with his hand moving slowly toward his pocket. "Dig up, then." Mac dug, and generously. The tall pitcher loomed over Thatcher. "Can you spare the price of a few neckties to aid a poor woman?" he asked, sarcastically. "I can," instantly replied the Dude, throwing a bill into Cas's hat. Ball players fight out rivalries even in their charities. Cas glanced grandly down on the Dude, and then passed to Havil. "The pot's opened for 5," he said to Havil. Next to shooting shot, Havil liked best a game of poker. In a flash he had contributed to the growing fund. "I'm in, and it costs 2 more to play," he replied. "Hicks, come on." "Cas, I'm broke, and Mac won't give me a cent till Saturday night," answered Hicks. "Borrow, then," rejoined Cas, curtly. He threw his roll of bills into the catcher's lap. Chase and several other players were ready for Cas, and so escaped calumny. Enoch mildly expostulated. "I'm gettin' tired of bein' buncoed this way," he remarked. "Produce. Ain't you the captain? Don't you draw the biggest salary? Produce," went on the inexorable Cas. "But Cas, you're always helpin' some beggar or other." "Wha—at?" demanded Cas, hotly. "It was only last week you touched the team for a nigger hobo. Produce." Enoch meekly produced. "What's the matter?" inquired Benny, lounging out of the hotel door. As usual he was under the influence of drink. "Hol' on, Cas. Gee! What's all the dough for? Lemme in." "Never mind, Benny," Cas replied. "Just raising a little collection for Jim Ayer's wife. Remember Jim? Got drunk with Jim many a time. Hol' on there. What's the matter? Is my money counterfeit?" Benny was the most improvident of fellows. He seldom had any money, and his bad habit excluded him from many of the plans and pleasures of his comrades. "Say, Benny, this isn't a matter of the price of a beer," replied Cas, moving toward the corner. Benny straightened up. "You're only kiddin' me. If I thought you meant that for an insult, say, I'm just as much a sport and gentleman as you any day." Thereupon Benny soberly thrust his hand into his pocket, pulled out a bill and some silver, soberly turned the pocket inside out to get the small change, and with great dignity dropped all the money into Cas's hat. Chapter 10